Good morning and welcome to Gather for Her. I'm Charlene San Jenko and I'm very pleased to welcome you to another weekly Wednesday conversation. I would like to acknowledge this morning as we gather, I'm hosting you from the traditional, ancestral and unceded territory of the Squamish First Nation. And I'm very pleased to welcome my co-hosts to hold space for this conversation for you and for us today, Christina.benty, Tina Overbury, and Sharon Marshall. And I'm actually just going to have them each just say good morning and introduce themselves. I think we primarily know everyone that's joining us this morning live, so we'll do this for our recording. But good morning, Christina.
Oh, good morning, everyone. Once again, absolutely thrilled to be here, calling in from Golden, which is the traditional territory of the Shuswap and the Ktunaxa. And Shar, you asked the question, what's your intention for today? Mine's always curiosity, because I'm always curious where the conversation's going to go. And I also added to it the word surprise. My intention is, what do I want to be surprised by? Because one of my favorite books is Surprised by Joy, I think it's called, by C.S. Lewis. So.
Awesome. Love that. Tina O.
Good morning. If you were in last week, you'll know that I royally butchered, however, attempted with a big heart to say the new name of Bowen Island, which is actually the original name of Bowen Island. And it's Nechlakum. And so I come to you from Nechlakum, which is on the unceded territory and ancestral land of the Squamish people. And it's an honor to be here. And my ears are open, my heart is wide, and grace was my word for today.
Love that. Good morning, Sharon.
Good morning. I am thrilled again to be here this week. And I am dialed in from Lanceville, which is on the traditional territory of the Snuneymuxw First Nation and the Coast Salish peoples. And my word was, what was it? Presence. So I'm trying to be more present in the moment and not think about, oh, what do I have to say? Just say it, right? So be present. So thank you.
So great. Yeah. Want to encourage us to fully expect magic in this conversation, to watch, listen, and feel for magic at its periphery. And with that, I'd like to give a very, very special welcome. If we were all together, we would likely be, big hug, group hug with everyone. A very special welcome to our special guest this morning, Ticia Lee Heward. And Ticia is a very special friend and a very special part of the Powerhouse team. This morning, we are talking to Ticia about an impact project that has been a part of her for a very long time. And I want to let you know that Ticia is a seasoned professional fundraiser. She's a philanthropic expert, and she was a 20-year NHL hockey wife. She is now the co-founder and managing director of a brand new social profit organization called Project Power Play. And that is one of the things that we're gathering today to have a conversation about. Good morning, Ticia. I want to welcome you this morning, and I'd just love to open it up for a couple of minutes. What's on your mind? What's your intention for the conversation today?
Well, my intention is lift off, actually. But before I start, I want to say I'm fortunate to live and work in Treaty 4 territory in the Qu'Appelle Valley. It's the original lands of the Cree, Saulteaux, Dakota, Lakota, Nakota, homeland of the Métis. Lift, I'm ready to lift off this amazing project that's been a little bit of a collaborative. I think it's a big heart with a lot of energy in it. And so really excited to introduce it to the world, and especially to the women of Powerhouse. So thank you so much for allowing me to be here. And yeah, I know I mentioned earlier that I'm in transition today. So if you hear background noise, I'll try to mute in between conversations. But thank you so much for having me, and I can hardly wait to share more.
Aw, thank you, Ticia. Yeah, we're women on the run these days. So I want to set the context for this conversation this morning, if you'll allow me to. I'm hoping that we can kick off the conversation with a broader picture discussion around the new economy. So I'm going to pull it way up just for a second. For those of you who joined us last week, I don't know if you remember, but Deanne talked about the sacred economy last week, and I want to pull that thread through a little bit. I believe that a piece of the new economy as we walk forward is one that I've watched with great curiosity, and I'm wondering how many of you have done the same over the last 20 years. I feel like the silos between for-profit and not-for-profit organizations are breaking down because I think they need to. And I remember one of my contracts many years ago was doing business development for a not-for-profit, because quite honestly, they needed help with their sustainable funding streams. And that was many years ago now. And I'm curious we'll kick it off with the co-hosts to start, but as we move towards a more caring economy, I'm just wondering, Christina, Tina, Sharon, if you've seen around you, before we kind of launch it over to Ticia, I'm just curious if you've seen around you in your discussions any whisperings around those boundaries and those silos between for-profit and not-for-profit, and what working together a little more closely or collaboratively might look like. Maybe I'll ask you to start, Christina, if you don't mind.
I'm not exactly sure how to answer this question, but I'm reminded of our conversation a couple of weeks ago at Gather, where she was talking about social profit, right? Recognizing social profit. So one of the things that I have noticed is the recognition that profit isn't just measured in dollars, but in terms of impact. And I think that's important. I think what I've seen is a shift in recognizing economic profit, not only economic profit, but environmental profit and social profit, and those the pillars are changing, and the language is changing in terms of how we measure impact, and I think that's really, I think that's a really important conversation, and I know I can't think of any examples offhand, but I am watching the language change, which I'm really pleased for. Because if you think of the term not for profit, why would you describe yourself as something you don't do? And so that's why I love the idea of like social profit or environmental profit, organizations that are profiting communities in a different way.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Tina, I'm wondering if you have any thoughts, especially from a story lens, around perhaps a new way of being. For me, I see it being coming up with new ways to provide the solutions that Canadian families need, where in the past it was very much government will fund these needs, and businesses are here to turn a profit. And I think the way that we're finding the solutions that Canadian families need moving forward, there's a lot more dancing between the two.
It was around the purpose of profit. And in this time where the silos are breaking down simply for because of need, that whether it's profit or non-profit, those camps go away. It's more about what is the purpose of this profit. So it's not profit for profit's sake. It's profit for purpose sake, simply because that's what is demanded of us at this time. Similar to, interestingly enough, the off-camera conversation with Christina about those places where our body goes, okay, I'm demanding that you change things now. And it's like the world is a bit like that right now. So that's what I'm noticing, is there's less conversation about profit and nonprofit and more what is the purpose.
I'd like to sneak over to Sharon for a second, because we definitely have these conversations off camera. And, for me, if we took it way back, it's like, how are we taking care of our village?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know, social profit, social enterprise, Indigenous people, most Indigenous organizations tend to be more on the social enterprise side of things. And that's just the way we think and do business. And so I don't know, as Indigenous people rise, perhaps it's no coincidence that the silos are breaking down, because they don't make sense as they are. And Indigenous people naturally work this way, and so that's where I'm going with this.
Thanks, Sharon. Yeah. So Ticia, we've kind of come full circle. I wanted to paint a little bit of context before we jumped into this conversation. And I'm wondering, you have worked for many, many years in this very thing of raising funds and working in the nonprofit world, helping to make sure that costs that need to be covered are covered, capital campaigns, and maybe you could backtrack to what's kind of brought you to this point in seeing that kind of history coming forward now.
Yeah, I think too, it is kind of time for that not-for-profit term to, not that the entity itself or the organization needs to change, that's not it, but how we refer to that organization. I think that with the folks that are actually funding those not-for-profits, the social investors, those impact investors, that's where we're seeing some change that really, they're being more hands-on. And I think that they're willing to go outside the traditional generosity that even a corporation, they're looking for innovation when it comes to the way that they're investing. I think that one term that I really like to use is social capital, because social capital really is about the positive product of humans, the human interaction piece, and the positive outcomes, whether it's tangible or intangible, but it's the information sharing, the innovative ideas, and the future opportunities that come from social capital. And so whether it's a social enterprise, which is all of the organizations in the world doing good, right? That's social enterprise. Then social profit is, the programming and the good the community feels from that social profit. But then it's the capital. That social capital is where the gold is, quote unquote. So I think really in business terms, it's about contributing to an organization that is there for the greater good of community. And it really, I think that the key is the personal relationships, the networks, and pulling in inside and outside energy to really complete the goal. And most often it is, financial, but really social capital is as valuable as financial capital, because that's what generates the finance capital. And so the sacred economy piece that we were talking about, I think really, if we look at the social capital that we can invest into the economy, that's really going to make the next generation of sort of impact investing make a change there. So.
Would you say, Ticia, that I just have one question, then we're going to jump into the next part of the conversation. But I know how important creating a legacy is for you, and we're gonna get into that shortly. But we've talked a lot about creating systemic change. A lot of our conversations talk about creating systemic change. But if the social capital is the result or the proof or the of what is changing as a result of work, would you say that social capital could be the legacy? Could you interchange the word social capital with legacy or systemic change, or do you see those as different?
Yeah, I think it's really, social capital isn't really narrow anymore. I think with our global social connections, it really is allowing us to go outside our normal bubbles. And so being innovative and using our social capital for social profit is really the key. And I think that building that sense of shared values and mutual respect, really, it's enabling an infinite number of people to connect and really sustain organizations, because we have connectivity and we're able to share our values and our sense of, this matters to us and, help us. So I think that it really, it's helping to build the trust and the respect among employees. And then that leads to enhanced company performance, which leads to, bottom line dollars being there to invest into the community. So kind of is reciprocal, but I think it starts with really social capital coming to the forefront to create the energy that ends up to be the financial reward at the end. So for the social profit kind of organizations, yeah.
So we're gonna go to the left slightly, and then we're gonna come back to the center. To the left is, I think, in what we're talking about, with relationships and connecting and all of these pieces. Why this conversation is so important to me right now and to have today is, I think women by nature are really, really, really good at this kind of work. In fact, I don't know if we understand how good we are at it. The networking, the connecting, the relationship building, the chit-chatting. And I'll go back to Tina's comment. The key is for a purpose, right? The key is for a purpose. And so I think where the next question I'd love to ask Ticia is more about how, working as women and what you have seen or what you think might be possible around weaving how we work as women already, with what we naturally do as women. We're connectors, we're touchy-feely, we're emotional, we care, we're nurturing. So how do we take all of that in 2020 and recognize that it's time to lift that up and elevate what we do for a larger purpose, and then weave that together, perhaps a little differently than we've thought about in the past, but not different in terms of what I think we were actually born and bred for. Just wondered if you had any thoughts about, specifically around how women work and what might be possible.
I think two words come to mind, bonding and bridging. So I think bonding is really, we have our tight groups, and kind of, Christina, this goes to our greatness grid, right? You look at our greatness grid and the core, right? That those folks that are really bonded to you, and you usually have shared interest and goals, and that's your core. But then to really make impact, we need to bridge, and it's that creating a bridge between those social capital groups that we really need to focus on, I think, for the impact we're looking to make as women in the world. And, if that bridging can be successful, I think that, women in two really distinct different groups and cultures with the same goals, working together to achieve them, can be a really beautiful thing. And so, bonding and bridging, yeah, I think that those are the two real key ingredients to creating this social capital that will change the world. That's yeah.
I love that. I'm just going to turn it over to Christina and Tina for any thoughts. I've got a couple around the greatness grid, but I'm going to hold off for now.
Awesome. Ticia, there's so many things that you've touched on here that are just kind of going bing, 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 bing with me. And I was thinking about, as we look at the younger generation, organizational culture is going to be really, really key and important to them. Working with and for organizations that where, like you said, those that share values and where there's those shared values, those common values, and that trust and respect for the organization, where there's more places that are less hierarchical in nature and more viewed from a who does what, right? The organizational chart looks more like this is who does what and who's responsible for what, and that there's more flow within organizations. What's coming up for me right now, and of course, again, I'm thinking about my own work with some of our larger institutions. They are they're still unable to grasp the concepts of social capital and relational currency, and those pieces of around legacy and purposeful relationship building that's so key to make sure that an organization is cohesive and recognizes its responsibility outside of itself, like beyond its existence, right? And so what I think is going to be really important, this comes back to we need more women in leadership that are going to embody those values around, like you just said, around bonding and bridging. We need more women in leadership positions that are going to embody that legacy building, which I think is so important. We're seeing it happen at, I think, more at an organizational level, but not necessarily at an institutional level. Those are traditional institutions. And so when we talk about systemic change, it's like, okay, some of the things I'm trying to wrap my head around is, do we just completely dismantle our institutions and reimagine them? That's one possibility. Or do we work, from the inside out? And these are really big picture, long term concepts, right? But I'm going to come back to the value of that social capital, and we can't actually afford to set it on the shelf anymore, right?
I agree. When people feel as though they have been they're a part of it. They're more willing to invest their time, talent, and treasure. And all three of those are what really make that sacred economy work. It's not just the money. It's the volunteering. It's the, what do I have to give? What's my talent? Maybe I'm a graphic designer, or I'm a grandma who can knit some baby booties, or, you name it. It's like really embracing the whole heart of the people in that social capital, that to invest into that sacred economy that's going to really, I think, be important to remind people. Remember, I think that if we go back to Sharon's comment about, we already know this, we just have to remember it, and being mindful that not always is it a dollar bill that makes impact, that that social capital also can make a difference alongside the dollar bill, because sometimes that's really important when it comes to sort of making the economy move. So definitely, I think that having folks have a purpose, making your case for support, what you're up to in the world and why you're doing it is really vital. And then having them buy in and invest their time, talent, and treasure in that purpose to make that impact we're really looking for. So,
Time, talent, and treasure. I like that. That's awesome.
I have a visual in my head that I want to share, and it really connects to Ticia, the two words you were using, bonding and bridging. And I want to come back to, I'll tie this all together, I promise, to the word economy and to remember and capital, and really remember that we're talking about money and profit here. And I really want to put that on the table, because I think sometimes we think about women and we're really good at connecting and bonding and all that stuff. And we're talking about bonding right now in relationship to cash, profit, to revenue. And so there's one piece. And I want to come back to, kept getting this visual of like a circle. Duh, we're women. Of course I'm going to see circles. That's what we see. However, so you said bond, and I saw the circle, and I saw the greatness grid, and there we are. We're all in our circle. There's our purpose. Bing, 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 bing. And then you said bridge, and I was like, whoa. Then I added another circle outside of the center circle and the bridge between that circle. And then I went to economy and ecosystem, and all an economy is an ecosystem of flow of revenue, and it's another circle. And then I went to how women burn out. We often burn out because I think we spend so much time on the bond and so much time on the bridge out, but not the bridge back. And we forget that bridges are two sides. There's a bridge out and a bridge back. And that to me is the connective tissue of profit. Profit with a purpose is that place of the circle, and in another circle with a bridge between, and another circle with a bridge between, and another circle with a bridge between. And that we're really talking about an ecosystem, a flow of cash flow. And when you talk about sacred economy, what I see are multiple circles connected by bridges, starting from a purpose, which is like the sun in the middle. I'm curious where that takes anybody, but I just wanted to share this really big picture in my head.
I love that, Tina. And what came to me is with the circles, it's actually the infinity symbol, right? And then the braid. If you connect them all together, that's the braid. That's what I see.
This feels like a great segue to a great segue to a project power play. And I want to, we've talked here about the sacred economy. We've talked about how are we actually harnessing gifts. Because again, back to the Indigenous lens, if we were living our truest purpose, we would be seeking and building our gifts to the best of our ability for the sole purpose of contributing those gifts back to strengthen our village. That's it. That's life. And for me, the sacred economy is an ecosystem, and it's the flow of energy and the flow of those gifts and the energy that those gifts bring. Some of those gifts yield financial. Some of those gifts are the knitting of sweaters. So, Ticia, I want to turn it over to you for a few minutes to introduce us to Project Power Play and to this vehicle that you see to help us bond and bridge. And you know what, where it came from, where it's going, and I'd just like to turn it over to you for a few minutes.
Oh, sure. Thank you, Charlene. Making an impact for community is something that has been ingrained in me since birth. I come from a small town in prairies here, and my parents really modeled for me, and that really was the start. As I grew up and got married and traveled around the world, I started finding a new village, a new community with the Hockey Wives. And unfortunately and unfortunately, we moved a lot. And so the bonding happened quickly, and the lessons learned were fast and furious because I moved every year. So I lived in 20 different cities and in over my 16-year span. And what really pulls me is the connection I still feel, even though I may not be connected with those Hockey Wives. I learned lessons from all of them. And so connecting the dots and then going, okay, that was a true gift to me. Now, how can I use that? And I think that bringing people together, whether we're really tight bonded or not, but building that bridge so that we can share lessons learned, so that shared wisdom, being a collective for a real, purpose, and bringing some profit to that purpose so that we can really make change. And Project Power Play was really born out of the impetus to look to the past and honor our mothers, our grandmothers, our great-grandmothers, and remember the lessons that we've learned from them, use our talents today, our gift today, and make change for the future. And so that's kind of that 7th generational stewardship that I'm really looking to model within Project Power Play. And of course, power play comes from hockey, right? So my husband was a defenseman. He was always on the power play. And throughout our hockey journey, a lot of my world focused on his story. And I'm ready now at almost 50 years old for it to be her story. And so making her into the power play, I thought was something that just resonated with me. And that's what the project is called, a power play. But then also a power play is an advantage on the ice, right? So bringing in other partners to create advantage is really my goal in all of this. Partnerships are my gift, I feel. Connecting with people, storytelling, showing the case for support and why I'm looking to make the impact in the community that we're here to make is really something that I'm very passionate about. And so I bring that to the table when we created our social profit organization. It is nationally registered not-for-profit at this point. We will be moving forward into charitable status, hopefully, with some good planning and strategy behind us. And our board is a blend of Indigenous and non-Indigenous women. And we have some really great young women at the table, like women in their early 20s and women that are in their 60s that are all coming together to build that bridge. We're building it right now. So along with it goes, okay, so how are we actually going to fund this vehicle? And what is the purpose of the vehicle? Really at the end, that wisdom is the impetus of why I want to share the wisdom, which really is education. And so my legacy is to share that wisdom and create an advancement of that for our daughters and into the future. And so leaving my legacy is to be able to create a scholarship fund or a bursary. I'm calling it a wisdom fund because it's not necessarily based on merit. It's also based on need. And I also want it to be based on innovation. I want women to be able to come to our organization to say, I would really like to learn the Mohawk language. And I can't afford to take classes, but I would really like to learn some of that lost wisdom again, or learning to make a drum, or learning to bead, or, I want to be able to support women finding that wisdom or reclaiming that. So the purpose for us is to, yes, of course, advance education in a non-traditional way, but also build bridges with partners that will see the impact we're trying to make and help us fund the organization. I do want it to be a 10-year project. I want to have some really clear goals. I want to be able to really show the impact we're here to make. And having some of those metrics and measurements is going to be really important for us. So building that all together, that's really Project Power Play, but having women support. So I'm really hoping that 100% of our donors are women or women-led organizations. I'm really wanting this to be a collective, a philanthropic collective of she for her, the women of today building a bridge and a future for her for tomorrow.
Christina, any clarifying questions coming up for you? I think what I just want to say is I just love to say that Project Power Play is brand new. It's a brand new, but it's not. It's been incubating for a very long time. It is a new social profit organization that has been born to be a vehicle for women to bond and bridge and really to hopefully model the power of collective philanthropy. And I think for me, it's like I've always thought of philanthropy as something that I will do when it's one of those things, I am going to contribute so much money when, right? And then fill in the blanks. And then things, but I've noticed over the last few years, like even my own gifting, like it's very intentional, and it's what I can afford in my own personal budget, but it is definitely happening. Now, what if there was a bit of collective power and coordination behind that? I don't have to wait until I think my bank account reaches this certain magic amount, right? So I just want to back up the bus and just simply say, we have an intention to model the power of collective philanthropy. And I think it's a power that is really needed right now, given the context we're walking into. We just need a champion to lead us there. Like we need a champion to lead us there and show us how. And okay, Tina, I'm gonna turn it back over to you. I'll read out this question just in case. Ticia, if Project Power Play was a book, and I knew it was this, and we just spent the summer reading the book, we can't put the damn book down because it is so good. We love it so much. And when we close the book and we turn the last page of that book, what is the one message that we're walking away with? What are we saying to ourselves and to the next woman we meet?
I think that you need to live your legacy today. So live your legacy today, walk the walk, talk the talk, do it. Just do it, as Nike would say. I think that anyone can be a philanthropist. So truly, we are, I live in the social profit world, and there are philanthropists like Oprah and Melinda Gates and, amazing women that have substantial resources. So when we think of philanthropy, we think of them. But the good news is that we all can be philanthropists, and we don't need to have the millions of dollars to give away. It's really anyone who seeks to promote good in our communities. And so, yes, it's the money, but it doesn't have to be copious amounts of money or waiting until I make, 65 and I retire, then I'll have enough. It's about using your gifts today and making the impact in small measures. So, I've done some, background work for Project Power Play on, what is a reasonable budget and what could we do? And, when I think about the bridging and what comes from that collective philanthropy, we all are tea drinkers, coffee drinkers, maybe soda drinkers, or maybe we buy bottled water. If we all just considered, making a bit of a shift in where we're investing our dollar bills, and even $1 a day, if we set that aside to make impact for women, that's about $30 a month-ish. Or maybe you say, I think I could, do $100 a month, just on a, just in a little, penny jar on the side. Not that we have pennies anymore. If all of us did that, if all of us just made a pile out, just off to the side of what we know we could do for her, with reoccurring gifts, saying that's what I'm going to do every month for her, it 500 women putting away $30 a month, $1 a day. If we just did that and invested it for her into impact, it's amazing what it could do. You know, by the end of our 10-year project, we could have $1 million in a scholarship for her for the future. And so that's really what I'm wanting to get women excited about, is leveraging our social capital, which is our networks and our and being mindful that philanthropy can start tomorrow with $1 a day, and you can make a huge impact for our daughters, for the women that are coming up behind us. So that's really, you know, what I'm hoping to be able to share with the world, is that just, you know, $1 a day, even a toonie a day, so $50 a month in a reciprocal giving model. So almost like a subscription if you were to get a magazine or, you know, get one of those fabulous boxes. We all know we're online shoppers in this day and age of COVID, and imagine if you did that for good instead of, you know, hair care products or what have you. And I know I'm so very excited to share it, and that will be the next step, is educating women, teaching them how to use their small gifts to make huge impact.
So great. I want to be able to open it up for a good 10 minutes of questions at least. And so I'm going to ask Christina and Sharon for some final thoughts, and then I'll swing back to Tina for one more time. And then I'm hoping we can wrap up this part of our conversation and open it up for a bit of a roundtable. Christina, final thoughts or questions?
So I want to come back to what Tina's image actually of the sun and of the circle, right? And money is energy, right? Like if we just saw money as energy, but so is our gifts and talents as energy, and it's an expenditure of energy. So it's a both and so you said live your legacy today, and I think so much of that is using our gifts, using our money, using our talents, using our mastery to mentor for that legacy, is and seeing it as an expenditure of energy. And so we give energy and then we get it back, right? And it's that infinity. It comes back to the infinity loop, actually, that Sharon talked about, right? That it's all in flow. And so not being afraid of being in flow. I expend energy, which includes money and effort, and it flows back to me. It's an infinity loop. And so I love, Ticia, how you're linking the gifts and the talents and the energy and money all into legacy. And so seeing that again as an infinity loop, that's what I'm leaving with today.
I know. I think and thank you, Sharon, for bringing up that infinity sign. And you know, I don't have any tattoos on my body, but maybe that's going to be one of them. When I turn 50 next year, I'm going to do that. I know that when I think of legacy, I actually have two people on the call here that I want to acknowledge when it comes to legacy. Jackie Pilon is one of my longtime NHL hockey Hi, Jackie. From New York Islanders, we were together and spent some time. And, you know, Jackie did make an impact for me. So thank you. I'm getting emotional. Thank you for being here. And Donna Ziegler. Donna, I'm so looking forward to our partnership, Donna. Donna's from the South Sask Community Foundation. And Donna and I have had conversations about Project Power Play and how we can work together to build the legacy that we are talking about today. And so community foundations are if you're not aware, they assist philanthropists and organizations to invest their money today for tomorrow. And so we will be building, having our wisdom fund held with the South Sask Community Foundation, and that will fuel our scholarships and our wisdom fund for the women that do want to further their education. Advancing education is our underlying ripple, in everything that we're going to do in Project Power Play. And when we achieve our charitable status, you know, that is our charitable purpose, is advancing education and sharing wisdom. So thank you both for being on the call. I was so happy to see both of your names show up this morning. And it's those partnerships. I know, Jackie, you know, I look forward to speaking with you and building partnerships up in Saskatoon, and of course then bridging from BC to Alberta to Saskatchewan and up to the Yukon. We've got some great energy happening up there for Project Power Play, as well as, you know, getting over to Eastern Canada eventually. So the bridges will be built. There will be multiple bridges and multiple ripples of, you know, impact for her, she for her, because we're bonding. We're bonding together through Project Power Play.
I just wanted to add, Ticia, I think it was Tina that said we need more women in leadership. And my question was, well, how can we help make this happen? And then, of course, you answered that with this legacy of now, do it now. And I just wanted to just tell a quick story. I had to come up with 10 grand last year for my daughter's university. And I didn't know how I was going to, I had to have it in 6 months. And I did it. And I, like, my ex-husband is even surprised that he didn't think I was going to be able to do it. And I did it. And because it was a priority. And so, you know, we don't think that we can manage these things, but we don't give ourselves enough credit. And so I think that if you really want to contribute and help bring leaders into this world, I think that this is what you're doing is incredible, and I think that we can do it. We absolutely can.
Yeah, we can. And the other piece is, I know Shar talked about you know, being champions of impact, and I'm actually a cheerleader, and I was a cheerleader for the Saskatchewan Roughriders way long time ago. And really, quite often, it's the cheerleaders, like the team at Powerhouse, like the women who can say, yeah, just go get going. We're here. We're cheerleading you. We're your support. We're your backbone. We gotcha. And that's the type of environment we really want to create with Project Power Play. And the other thing I want to really also help through our partnerships and through our model is to bring awareness for other amazing projects that are happening that are women-led. And so if it's you know, an organization like the YWCA, or an amazing film maker like Deanne Whalen, Dee, who is, you know, 500 Days in the Wild, and yourself, Sharon, your DIVA program is amazing, where you're bringing digital literacy to rural and remote communities for those Indigenous women to gain that really that education for them to be able to become entrepreneurs in their small communities. So championing those impact projects is what we're here for. And then our legacy is creating our scholarship fund for our daughters for the future. So I thank everyone for being the cheerleaders for Project Power Play, and I'm ready to head to the face-off circle, and puck drops here. So thank you all for joining. I know that we do have a sign-up sheet. We're going to be launching our I guess our subscription model, which is our philanthropic collective, where women can make contributions that are you know, based on their capacity. It can be $1 a day, it can be $100 a month, it can be whatever you feel you can, you know, you can manage with, and really the benefit will come from a thank you gift. Eventually, we've got some really amazing partners with Powerhouse, and Powerhouse is going to be the thank you, the gratitude, the thank you version for the gifts that are received through Project Power Play. So I'm really excited to share more, but you're gonna have to sign up to find out. So there's a link in the chat if you're interested for more information. There's no obligation. It's just I want to hear more, and our minimum starting level to be a part of our philanthropic collective is $1 a day ish. So $33 a month, and we picked 3 because of a braid. There are 3 areas that we're braiding, we're weaving, we're braiding, and so that's why we picked the number 33 for the start of our gift. So anyway, thank you all for the time today. We have 3 minutes, so I'm just gonna
Thank you, Ticia. Thank you to the co-hosts. This has definitely been a gather for her.